Chapter 21. Siddle replied, bewildered, Dr. Lecter, what are you talking about? Her expression remained unchanged. She was mocking and disdainful in her heart, thinking that this person must be deceiving her. Then she heard Hannibal's gentle and calm voice, no need to pretend anymore, my dear. He deliberately raised his voice when he said the last word, my dear, with a hint of laughter, saying each word one by one. It sounded like honey swirling around the tip of his tongue, sweet enough to make her sick. Thinking back, ever since she met Hannibal, this person had never called her by name, but always called her, my dear. Now this way of addressing her made Siddle a little scared. She always felt, sometimes, when Hannibal called her, my dear, he looked at her like he was looking at a snack. And it was a fresh and delicious snack, very much to his taste. At this moment, Dr. Hannibal Lecter was looking at her with the eyes of someone enjoying delicious food, gently saying, do you know why your mother found a psychiatrist for you? Because of what you did in the Rocky Mountains. Mrs. Christian was so worried about her daughter and wanted to know why she did such a crazy thing, so she made an appointment with me to treat you. Hannibal leisurely sipped his tea and elegantly waited for Siddle's reaction. Siddle suddenly sobered up. She was indeed frightened by Hannibal's calm attitude just now, but as soon as these words came out, she immediately affirmed that Ray had not said anything she shouldn't have said to Hannibal. She had actually set fire to the Rocky Mountains, something that perhaps no one except her mother Ray could have guessed. The truth was that the big fire was intentionally set by a 7-year-old child. However, Siddle knew better than anyone that her mother, Ray, would never tell anyone about her daughter's crimes without solid evidence. Ray might indeed have some bad suspicions about Siddle, but Siddle was very confident that Ray would not talk nonsense to others. So in the end, it was Hannibal who was deceiving her. Siddle felt uncomfortable. She kept a serious expression and reprimanded Hannibal properly. Falsely accusing a girl, that's not a gentlemanly thing to do. You have to provide evidence for what you say, or I can sue you for defamation, Dr. Lecter. Hannibal put down his teacup. Siddle looked straight into his eyes, trying not to show any guilt. In fact, she didn't feel guilty at all. After all, she set the fire to protect the people, so Siddle felt comfortable doing so. Moreover, it had been a week since the fire, and any evidence had long since disappeared. Hannibal's expression was somewhat beyond Siddle's expectations. He thought for a moment, wanting to say something but stopping himself, finally replying in a slightly flustered tone, okay, you're right, my dear. Siddle. Damn it. This was a tone that completely disbelieved her. Furthermore, he deliberately added the word, my dear, at the end of his sentence, which always gave her the feeling that he had seen through everything, and was both helpless and indulgent of her impulsiveness. Is everyone who studies psychology this good? Siddle was a little confused. She didn't understand. She clearly hadn't shown any flaws, right? In short, Dr. Lecter, Siddle said seriously and solemnly, please stop making malicious judgments about me. Siddle wasn't someone who would climb down if given a ladder. In fact, she would climb up the pole without hesitation whenever she had the chance. Whether Hannibal knew the truth or not, as long as she didn't admit it, it had nothing to do with her. Siddle, upright, majestic and shameless, the fire caused by natural weather, what does it have to do with a weak, pitiful and helpless 7-year-old girl like her? Hannibal smiled slightly, his indigo eyes on his handsome face silently staring at Siddle, his pupils dilated slightly, as if he could see someone else through Siddle, you know. Actually, looking at you makes me remember someone. This line sounded strangely familiar. Siddle unconsciously thought of a bunch of literary works about mediocre and bloody body doubles that she had read. Then she heard the man's deep and elegant voice. Always reminds me of myself when I was 7 years old. Siddle, oh, I see. She silently erased the bloody body doubles in her mind. Hannibal leaned forward slightly, lazily propping up his chin, looking at the little girl in front of him with great interest. You are very bold. Siddle automatically translated this sentence. In short, Hannibal thought she was very brave. Do you know the honey badger? He whispered in a cold voice, "It has an average weight of about 10 kilograms, and its body length is less than, it is a meter long, but its natural enemies are only lions and cheetahs. It is fierce, aggressive, and extremely effective at hunting. It will attack almost anything and is smart enough to detect its enemies' weaknesses. Even when the honey badger encounters its natural enemies, lions and cheetahs, it will not be afraid, and will only fight back and bite/nx/a continuously, until it bites/t its opponent to death. Or is bitten to death by the opponent. You are very similar to him," Hannibal said, his indigo eyes slightly narrowed, emitting a strange light. "The first time I saw you, I discovered, although you reminded me of some embarrassing things in the past." "If I were 7 years old," the man sighed softly, a hint of regret on his almost perfect eyebrows, "it would be good if I had a temper like you. Thinking back, I could have avoided a lot of things. For example, killing those people when they were only 7 years old, or simply being buried in that pile of snow with Misha." Although Dr. Lecter had finally stopped his fake, professional smile, the emotions he revealed at this moment always made Siddle have the urge to stay away. But at the same time, she unconsciously realized another important point. Siddle remembered the appearance of the honey badger and found it a bit difficult to accept. "Dr. Lecter, I can accept that you used it as a metaphor to praise me for being strong, but if it looks like that, then forget it." The little girl muttered resentfully, "It's too ugly." Hannibal agreed, "Of course, my appearance and it are completely different. You are a sweet and lovely girl." He smiled happily, as if he was in a good mood, and winked at Siddle gently. "Siddle, thank you." Although she didn't want to be a sweet girl. But since Hannibal seemed to be in a state of tragic and unusual nostalgia, Siddle decided to say thank you in a reserved manner. "By the way, is this psychiatrist really okay?" Siddle felt that Hannibal should be the one to see a psychiatrist. Ring ring ring. The landline phone rang. Hannibal froze, as if he was gradually coming out of some indescribable state. He glanced at the watch on his wrist and apologized to Siddle. "Excuse me, I'll excuse you for a moment." The man stood up, walked to the window and answered the phone. "Dr. Lecter," the young man's frivolous voice came from the other end of the phone, "are you free this afternoon? I remember I made an appointment for you to come in for a psychological consultation at 5 o'clock in the afternoon." Hannibal calmly replied, "You remembered wrong. Your appointment was on Wednesday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Today is Monday, Mr. Verger." "This is really bad news," the man named Verger muttered in dissatisfaction, "you know? That damn lamb is making noise again. Oh my God, I really can't deal with them, can't do it today." He asked with a trembling voice, "I don't think it will take too long." Hannibal frowned slightly, just about to refuse, but suddenly there was a sound of broken porcelain behind him. Siddle hurriedly knelt down to pick up the pieces of porcelain. Seeing Hannibal glance at her, she hurriedly said, "I didn't mean to. I was just thirsty and wanted to drink a cup of tea." She didn't expect that she would accidentally break the teapot. "Hannibal, it's okay." He frowned, and sure enough, a loud and excited voice suddenly rang out on the other end of the phone. "I think I heard a child's voice," the young man said excitedly. "Doctor, is that your child, Hannibal?" The man on the other end of the phone seemed to know that he had just said something stupid, and said awkwardly, "Sorry, that child's voice is so cute." "Is she your patient?" "Doctor, can I come and see you now?" "It might not be convenient," Hannibal said coldly, his eyebrows showing impatience, his indigo eyes as cold as a frozen lake looking out the window. "Ah, it's okay, I won't disturb your treatment, doctor." The gentleman named Verger seemed excited, "Her voice is so clear, it almost heals my soul. I really want to see her, oh my God." Refusing to do so was ineffective. The man on the other end of the phone seemed to be ready to drag it out. This time Hannibal was silent for a moment, then suddenly changed his tone, "Okay. You go now." When Hannibal ended the call and came back, Siddle had already cleaned up the ceramic shards on the floor and was sitting obediently on the chair waiting to be dealt with. She said softly, "I didn't mean it, I can compensate you at the original price. It's okay. Hannibal glanced at the broken tea set indifferently and said indifferently, it's just a tea set. But that tea set seemed expensive. Siddle thought to herself, but the owner of the tea set didn't seem to care. She didn't know what to say. She could only imitate Hannibal's appearance and pretend that nothing had happened. Hannibal took out a form from the bookshelf, sat down across from Siddle, picked up a pen and restored the gentle smile from when they first met. My dear, is there anything else you want to say? Give this psychological test report to your mother. Siddle. She was a little suspicious. Can this psychological report be written so quickly? She only did the human treehouse test, and with the intention of causing trouble, she drew a fairy tale castle. Hannibal flipped the pen and calmly replied, actually, there's no need for complicated tests. I can tell what kind of person you are just by looking at you. It's obvious that your mentality is fine. He smiled slightly. Perhaps, only a personality like yours can live well in this world, right? Siddle. She couldn't help but say, your psychology, is that magical? For example, just by meeting someone, you can tell what kind of person they are. Is this psychology or fortune-telling? Will studying this really not shorten your life?